There's a wonderful romance to old branch line railways, isn't there? A little steam engine chuffing along, gorgeous countryside views rolling past the carriage windows, a sense of peace and tranquility. Tragically though, many of the most beautiful and bucolic of Britain's branch lines were first on the chopping block in decades gone by, whenever people decided that pretty scenery didn't generate enough profit. But their generally smaller nature meant they were often ideal candidates for preservation. And if there's one preserved branch line that captures the spirit of days gone by, it's this gorgeous little railway running along the banks of the River Dart in between the towns of Totnes and Buckfastleigh in the rural splendour of Devon. Welcome, folks, to a little line known as the South Devon Railway. Hello people of the internet, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Station on the Mile. Chris, how you doing?
Hello.
We're back in Dawlish. I feel like...
Deja vu.
Yeah, I feel like me and you, we've kind of been here before. But this time, we're not focusing on the seawall itself. As beautiful as it is, you know we love the Dawlish seawall.
Going to my favourite railway.
Your favourite railway? I genuinely didn't know that. There you go. We're actually getting aboard the HST that we can see approaching right now. And we're going to a heritage railway that we were going to go to in March 2020,
And
then something called a global pandemic happened.
Yeah.
14 months later,
then
let's finally right that wrong, which means we have to go to Totnes, and our train's right there. Right, so the good news is we're at Totnes Station. The bad news is, where's the steam trains?
blame BR on that one.
There's supposed to be a steam train.
Yeah. It's about half a mile that way.
Okay, yes. So annoyingly, where we're going today used to terminate right in here at the mainline station at Totnes, and then it was rather expensive. They decided we'll build our own Totnes station with blackjack and but with nice period GWR buildings and stuff. To get to it,
You have to walk down the path.
you have to walk down a kind of secret little hidden path that crosses a river.
Yeah.
And let's go find it, shall we?
Let's go.
Having made it to Totnes Riverside just in time for the first train of the day, we settle in for the first of many journeys along this spectacular 6.6 mile stretch of railway, winding through the foothills and along the River Dart. The line itself was first opened in 1872, after an earlier attempt to link Ashburton to the main Great Western Railway station at Newton Abbot in 1848 was dashed by an economic recession. And right from the off, it was one of many small, quaint branch lines across the country, never particularly busy, with freight being the main cargo on the line rather than passengers. Given it never threatened to make a profit even from day one, it was perhaps inevitable that this was one of the first casualties of the mass closures of the 1960s. In fact, it actually preempted Dr. Beeching's report altogether. Passenger services ceased in 1958, and the line itself survived for freight until 1962. But it's at this point we say hello to a gentleman named Patrick Whitehouse OBE. Having helped start the world's first heritage railway in 1951, Whitehouse was a pioneer of the rail preservation movement, and having just acquired a GWR tank engine for preservation, he fancied an appropriately Great Western branch line to run it on. After his first target, the Kingsbridge branch to the west, had its tracks lifted, the nearby branch line to Ashburton was a great alternative because track lifting had yet to take place. The Dart Valley Light Railway Company Limited was formed in 1965, and trains were running on the little branch line again by 1969. Ironically, the reopening ceremony was led by none other than Dr. Richard Beeching. Unfortunately, they never made it back to the original terminus at Ashburton. The Ministry of Transport insisted the railway company fund improvements to the nearby A38, and when that didn't happen, they proceeded to cut off the line north of Buckfastleigh altogether in 1971. A road quite literally beheading a railway. Kind of fitting, really. Unlike most heritage railways, the Dart Valley Railway, as it was then known, was operated for profit by a limited company. And just like the previous management, the railway found it difficult to generate enough money. By 1989, the DLRC Limited was looking to sell up, jeopardising its future once more. Salvation this time came from within. A group of volunteers based at the railway working to restore an old GWR Hall locomotive, number 4920 Dumbleton Hall, had formed a registered charity to help make the restoration happen. And it just so happened that the Articles of Association for this charity actually allowed the volunteers to run their own railway, and one had suddenly become available right on their doorstep. On 1st of January 1991, operations were handed over to the new trust, and the renamed South Devon Railway resumed operations. And in February 2010, the trust was able to purchase outright the freehold of the line from the previous owners. All of that brings us back to the present, almost 30 years exactly since the line reopened in its present guise. And appropriately, we were visiting in the first week of operations since the line reopened after lockdown restrictions eased. Oh, and the locomotive in charge of our train today? That'll be number 5524, a GWR Small Prairie tank engine, a very similar loco to the one Patrick Whitehouse acquired back in 1963 that led to him saving the South Devon Railway to begin with. And as we trundled through the valleys to Buckfastleigh, boy did she put on a show. Right, well, that was a run on the South Devon Railway, wasn't it?
Very good. Barky.
Very balky, yes.
Balky little
We're actually here in the first week of the line reopening after lockdown and everything. And they're running, 4 down and back trains a day?
Yeah.
From right here at the line's HQ, which is Buckfastleigh. And our steed for those journeys has been 5542.
Small prairie.
A small prairie, yes. Small does not mean quiet, though.
It's loud.
Yeah, it's very balky, yes.
It's loud.
There's a reason I like prairie tank engines quite a lot. I like panniers, but prairies, they're beefy. They can do loud noise, yes. So we've come from Totnes, which is where the branch line originally came off. That's the same. We've been through the intermediate stop at Staverton. Not Staverlow, as I keep getting confused with the corner at Spa. That's the corner at Spa-Francorchamps, yeah. And now we're here at Buckfastleigh. In decades past, we would have been able to keep going a bit more that way, because the original branch line actually terminated over at Ashburton. But I don't know if you can see behind us.
That tree line.
Yeah, you see those trees? Just beyond them, there's a great big road.
Yeah, they decided that they needed to widen the A38.
Yes, and despite the fact the Preservation Society had already saved the entire line, including Ashburton, including the bay platform at Totnes, everything. Yeah. They were told, you pay for the road renovations, or we're going to behead your preserved line.
Cut it in half.
Which is what they did. So I can think of no more kind of appropriate metaphor for the whole beaching cuts than a road literally beheading a railway.
Going straight through the middle.
You said earlier on,
it's my favourite.
Your favourite heritage line?
Yeah, it's just Great Western perfection.
It is, isn't it? This is
country branch line.
The way I kind of liken it is there's an analogy in the modern railway world called a layout called the BLT, the branch line terminus. And it's a stereotype that so many people decide to model a GWR branch line terminus, a BLT. Including you, yes, and probably me, when I finally get around to building my layout. And, well, here's the reason why. There's a lot going on. Yeah. There's kind of a reason. Sometimes there's a reason certain things are popular. Yeah. It's because they're very good.
Yes.
Meantime, should we get back on the train?
Yes, let's get back on the train.
Let's go. We don't want to do that. Intriguingly, the original Ashburton station building still survive today and are in commercial use. And in 2015, a plan to build housing on the station site and old trackbed was successfully rebuked by the South Devon Railway Trust and Friends of Ashburton Station. While it would be a gargantuan effort to reopen the station and line from Buckfastleigh, plans are supposedly afoot, And given other reopening and new build projects on heritage railways elsewhere in the country, never say never. Speaking of new builds though, we didn't hang around long at Buckfastleigh and hopped back on the train to return to Totnes Riverside, partly to check out the most modern station on the South Devon Railway, but also to resolve a slight scheduling issue we'd encountered. Okay, so we're back at Totnes Riverside.
Yep.
One complete loop of the South Devon Railway done.
Yeah.
This is the new station that was built.
Yeah, this was entirely made in about the early 80s, I think.
Yes, to basically alleviate the fact that they could run directly into Totnes Station if they wanted to, much like a lot of other heritage lines do nowadays.
But they're not allowed.
But back then it was either not allowed and or made too expensive.
Yeah, and I bet people wouldn't know if you didn't tell them that it wasn't real.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. There's been some new build stations at lines we've already been to in the series.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Irwell Vale on the East Lancs. They all feel like you don't... If you told someone they were built decades earlier or later than people thought they were, they'd be like,
You wouldn't.
really? So, top-notch job from that aspect to make it feel and look so accurate and so immersive. Authentic, that's the word. Thank you. That's why you're here. You're like my thesaurus.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a bit of bad news.
I've got to go home and got to go to work.
I know, right? You're like Steven Seagal in Executive Decision, leaving the Star, leaving way earlier than everyone thought they would. It's all part of a consequence of what's been quite a weird week for us, I'll be honest. Yeah. We've already been here on the Monday, right?
Yeah.
And by the end of it, we were both drowned.
Yeah.
It was some of the worst spring weather we've ever seen. On the day that the country was reopened from over a year lockdown,
it pissed it down with rain.
It was just raining all day. So we thought, never mind, we'll have Tuesday. Goes to book the tickets.
And we can't.
We were trying to book tickets on Monday night, the tickets on Tuesday, and we couldn't do that. But I think we've made half decent save because we spent Tuesday instead filming a video that you'll see after this one, somewhere in the Devon area.
Yeah.
And we've come back today, and the weather is actually really nice.
It's sunny.
This is the nicest weather it's been all week.
And it's the day I have to
But
go.
it's the day we have to go, and you have to go earlier because of
Have to go at
an
lunchtime.
annoying thing called work.
Yeah, that.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on as usual.
Yep.
Have you enjoyed your time on your favourite heritage railway? Silly question, really.
Silly question.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been lovely. I believe you're now going to wave me off like we're in the railway children.
Yeah, we're not waiting.
Because I'm going to head back to Buckfastleigh and go get a Cornish pasty or something.
Yeah.
The authentic station building is actually from the former Toller station in Dorset. When it and the Bridport railway line it was located on closed in 1975, the station building was recovered and rebuilt brick by brick at Totnes Riverside. As we said farewell to Chris, it was time to take another beautiful trip to Buckfastleigh, passing through the gorgeous intermediate station at Staverton along the way. Sadly not open on the day of our visit due to lockdown restrictions, this picturesque station is a true time warp, remaining largely unchanged for well over a century of existence. If you want to know what the standard classic GWR branch line station looked like back in the day, Staverton is it. In no time at all, we returned to Buckfastleigh, and this time we let 5524 chuff away back down the Dart Valley and stayed around at the South Devon Railway's headquarters for a bit of lunch and a look around. Okay, so here's the situation. I'm back at Buckfastleigh. My train has departed again and headed back up that way towards Totnes Riverside. So while it's doing that, I decided I'd hang around at Buckfastleigh for a bit and really explore the place because, like I said, this is the headquarters of the entire line and there is quite a lot to see here. And what I'm particularly curious about and what I particularly like about Buckfastleigh is, in a lot of cases, the headquarters station on a heritage railway really kind of sets the tone for what the entire line is about. Say, for example, Bury Bolton Street on the East Lancashire Railway. Very bustling, very busy, a lot of platforms, a lot of stuff going on. Almost feels like it should still be a mainline, regularly used station now, except that all the trains and signage is about 40 or 50 years older than you'd expected it to be. And contrast it to here at Buckfastleigh, this is a great representation of the entire line because it's quaint and bucolic and charming, and you almost feel like you could stumble across it one day. Like, this sort of secret that no one else knew. Like, you'd go into the woods one day and suddenly just stumble across this track, and you'd have no idea where it went, and you'd walk it, and you'd find this. You'd find this charming little station, somehow time warped, so it's forever in the 1950s. And that's kind of what it feels like, and it's a great testament to the work here that this wasn't the original terminus of the line, as we've described, but it feels like it. I'll tell you what, I think it was worth waiting a couple of extra days for the sun to come out. I kind of felt sorry for everyone at the South Devon Railway that their grand reopening day on Monday this week, as we're filming it, turned into a complete washout. All those months of waiting to get back going again, running trains and bringing people back on the trains, and then the first day back and you're soaked to the skin inside an hour, as I was. Now, my hat was particularly drenched, but I'm so glad I get to show it to you on a day like today. It's a gorgeous, beautiful spring day, puffy, fluffy clouds in the sky, birds twittering. It's lovely. Lines like this especially make me very happy. It's such a nice day, in fact, that I decided, before I take you on a little guided tour of everything going on here at Buckfastleigh, I treat myself to a nice Devonshire ice cream. Excellent. Alright, come with me and I'll show you around. Wandering around Buckfastleigh station, it's easy to forget that this was never the original terminus of the railway, but the South Devon Railway certainly made it feel like that was always the case. There's carriage sheds and locomotive works, sidings full of stock, and a goods shed now serving as a museum, of which inside lives the last surviving GWR broad gauge locomotive in the world, a little 040 loco, appropriately named Tiny. And as 5524 came to collect me and take me back to Totnes one last time, I came over all whimsical and philosophical. You see, we always view it as a sad day when a railway line is closed and history is wiped away. And being a tiny branch line struggling to make any money even if it's operational peak, the South Devon Railway is always going to be first on the chopping block when the accountants decided which lines weren't worth keeping open. But maybe its closure was actually the best thing that could possibly have happened to it. Think about it. Even if somehow it had stayed open in full operational service, would anyone have really cared about it? Would it just be run down, overgrown and unloved by now? The original stations eventually demolished to make way for nothing but a prefabricated platform and a bus shelter, with nothing but a single meagre DMU service trundling up and down every few hours. And instead, it's now run by a dedicated group of people who give it the love and care that it always deserved, preserving it as a living, breathing snapshot of a place in time from many decades past. And ironically, it may well be making more money now as a tourist attraction than it ever did in its service days. Either way, the South Devon Railway has that quality that all great heritage railways have. The feeling that when you step across the gate line, you're not just entering a museum with moving exhibits, but you're actually passing through a portal in time and emerging somewhere far in the past on the other side. The South Devon Railway is a truly magical little railway, and no wonder it's Chris's personal favourite heritage line. After our visit today, it really wasn't hard to see why.